Hello, welcome to my channel, Midnight Oil Software. I'm Greg, and tonight I'm going to be drawing some digital art for my Ninja Eggs game. I'm adding a Moon Patrol rewrite as a mini game to Ninja Eggs, and in the previous stream added the buggy and implemented being able to jump over hazards like craters, and added guns that I can shoot, and implemented the buggy dying when I crash into a crater, and some sound effects. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different and actually show how I draw the art that I use in the game. So I'm going to switch over to my Corel Painter 2022. I'm using a Artist XP Pro 16-inch tablet. An XP Pen Artist Pro 16-inch tablet with Corel Painter 2022. And as you can see here, I've already drawn this laser turret. I'll go ahead and show the layers I created for this. I actually added a drop shadow, which I'm not sure I'm going to keep. I'm not sure how that would look sitting on top of the terrain. But I have the barrel up there, the shaft that connects the top part down to the base. I have this little cylindrical, half cylindrical rear portion, the main body of the turret, the platform that the turret sits on, and then the base that platform sits on, and then some decorative panels that I added. And all of that I just put in a group called turret. So I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to create a new layer here, and I'm going to rename this Hill. And I've already got kind of a light brown color. I might go a little more red, a little kind of an orangish brown. And I'm going to use a knife from the palette knives collection here. There's one called Mountain Knife. So just to show you what this looks like, I'll make the brush a little bit bigger. It kind of gives you a sharp edge like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale that down a little bit, and I'm going to make it kind of a jagged looking thing like this, and just sort of sketch a rough outline for how I want this to look. Something like that. So I'm just kind of giving the rough outline. And I want it to be kind of jagged and coarse. And I like this palette knife because it leaves some holes in the paint. It makes it look kind of rough. And then I'm just going to fill this in. I'll make the brush a little bit bigger. Come in here and fill this all in. And the bottom I'm not as concerned about because I'm actually going to chop off the bottom. I want this to have a flat bottom so that when I set it on the terrain, it sits flat and the collider would be flat. So I'll take the selection tool, and I'll just chop that off. All right, now I'm going to select the layer content so you can see it's got this little border around it, and I'm going to hide that selection and create a new layer, and we'll call this shading. And I'm going to set the composite method to multiply. So basically using the same color as I add color to the image, it's going to add shadows. Now my light source is going to be coming from the upper left, so I want to put the shadows on the right. So I just kind of draw in some shadows. Try and think about how I want the contour of this mountain to be. Wherever I think there might be some little ridges. Okay. And then I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to call this highlights. And I'm going to set the composite method to screen. And I'm going to do the opposite, where I think there should be some, the sun is shining on it. And then I'm going to back off the opacity of those just a little bit, just so they're not so sharp. I want it to be a little subtle. Okay, so now I'm going to merge these all together. And I'm going to, again, make sure I got that selected. Hide that selection, create a new layer. Once again, I'll do multiply, and I want to add some texture. So I think I'm going to start with the chalk brush. And the chalk brush uses the paper textures. So I'm going to use this under organismal textures. I'm going to use this polyplay wool. And I don't want it to be real big. That contrast looks good. So I'm just going to start, especially in the shadowy areas, laying down some texture. And because I selected the layer content, it's only laying it inside where I've already got paint. So I'm going to create another layer, set it to screen, and I'm going to put some of this in the lighter areas. And I'm going to go back here and I'm going to pick the pepper spray brush, and I'm just going to tap in here. So I'm adding a little bit of texture just in there, and then I'll do the same thing with the lights. And I will merge these two together. Actually, I'm going to merge it all. Well, no, I don't want to do that yet. I'm going to merge these together. And that really went away, didn't it? Put that back. I'll do these individually. I'm going to take the coarse oily blender, and I'm just going to kind of, following the contour of the mountain, kind of blend these a little bit, just so they're not so smooth. And then take both of these and turn their opacity down, so make it a little bit more subtle. And blend them all together. So I'm happy with that. That's my hill. So I've got a turret and I've got a hill. So next, I want to do a boulder. So we'll pick more of a kind of a grayish color. And I'm going to use this smooth fill brush. And I'm just going to draw the rough shape. Oh, got to deselect my selection. That's too symmetrical. I don't like that. Chop off that bottom. Okay. So I'm going to do something similar to what I did with the mountain. But first I'm going to do select layer content, hide that selection, create a layer, set it to multiply. I'm going to use this airbrush, and I'm just going to kind of shade the edges. Oops, I must not have done a selection. There we go. All right. I want to kind of give this some contour, so I'm going to shade the edges. And the light is coming from the upper left, so I want it to be mostly shaded on the right. And then I'm going to create a new one, call it screen, and add some highlights. And then, just to give it some more flavor, some more contour and texture. Blur that in a little bit. Maybe add a little bit of jaggedness. So actually I want to put that on its own layer so I can fade the opacity. not really sure I like all those, but yeah. The great thing about digital art, if you don't like what you did, you can throw it away. So let's add some texture. Let's go ahead and merge these together. Select layer content, show hide selection, create a new layer, set it to multiply, and do the same thing with the chalk. Kind of like that. So I'm just trying to add some subtle texture to it. Don't want to completely destroy this, but I want to kind of smooth it out a little bit with some different blending brushes. Diffuse blur, kind of blend it in a little bit. And I think that'll look all right for a boulder. I'm not really sure I like this shape, so I'm going to distort it a little bit. I'm going to use the pinch brush. Actually, maybe the kind of like that. And I'll save that. I'm going to experiment here and use the distorto brush, thin distorto brush. I'm going to see if I can't like thin distorto. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that brush was doing something. Add some cracks in here. detail oils brush. Maybe just kind of a little bit of character there. So some light streaks over the dark area, little cracks. And then some darker ones over the lighter areas. I'm kind of happy with that. Blend them all together. All right, so I've got a boulder. I got a boulder, I got a hill, and I've got a turret. I'm going to go ahead and expand the turret. I'm going to merge all those things together. I'm going to rename that turret. Oops. Had caps lock on. And I'm going to move this out of the group. I'm going to delete that group. All right. So I got my turret, got my hill, got my boulder. So I'm going to go ahead and save these. And I think I'm ready. So I have to do an extra step here. If I pull this file into Unity, it doesn't retain the transparent layer here for some reason. I have to open it up in Photoshop and resave it. So it's kind of stupid, but I'm going to close out of here. I painted that painting, by the way, in Corel Painter. So let me open up that file. See, I called that hazards. Open with Photoshop. You can't see what's happening, but I'm opening it up in Photoshop right now. So here we go. So I'm in Photoshop. I will select this background layer, unlock it, and delete it. And there's my transparency. And I'm going to save as, and I'm going to save it as a PSB file, which is a format that Unity likes. Okay. So, go into my art. Minigames Egg Patrol. And this is kind of new for me. I usually export individual PNGs for each layer. But what I'm doing today is a little bit different. I'm actually going to pull in this PSB file. And you can see it's split it up into the three individual sprites. So up here, I'm going to change the maximum size to 512. And I'm pretty sure if I drag one of them into the scene, that it's way too big. And I was right. So up here, pixels per unit. That looks better. All right, so we'll do the boulder first. I know that I'm going to want a polygon collider. And I want it to be on the hazards layer. And I will create a prefab for that. I'll call it boulder. Go back into the arts folder. Drag the hill. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Drag the hill. Give it a polygon collider. Put it on the hazard layer. Create a prefab. Go back into the art. Drag the turret. Add a polygon collider. And create a prefab. And I will delete all those. So what I can probably do, I can take my prefab that I've got here for the terrain, and what I think I'm probably going to do is I'm going to add an empty game object here, and I'm going to call it hazard. And that's just going to be a child of the terrain. And then I'm going to add hazards to that object. I'm going to parent them to that hazard object. So for instance, if I wanted to have a boulder, I'll just set that there, and then I'm going to move the actual hazard thing, because all of these should be able to be positioned the same way. So that one would be up there. That's cool. And then that's always at 0, 0, 0, so that should be fine. And just to see how that looks, I'm going to turn off the hazard. Oh, and that needs to be on the hazard layer. So I'm going to turn that off. And go ahead and start the game. It always takes a while the first time I start it when I open up a new session. Okay, so I'll pause that. I'll go down to the last terrain item. Right there. I don't want it to be there because I won't be able to jump over it. All right, let's try that one. So I'm just going to open him up and turn on his hazard. And that'll scroll right back around. Cool. All right, so I've got the general idea of how the hazards will work. I'll programmatically add them, of course. So I have to add something. I have to have a script on my terrain, probably my terrain manager, to where I can grab the game object, the hazard game object off of there. I'm going to to think about that. And basically, I'll just have a certain percentage chance, if it's normal terrain, of spawning a hazard on that terrain. And I'll just parent it to that hazard member. And the easiest way would be to actually have a script, a terrain script. I've already got scrolling terrain. So if I go to my prefab here, he's got a script here. So I could add a serialized field, game object, hazard. Go back into Unity. Pick that prefab. Where's the script on that guy? Okay, so I will take this and drag that there. So now I can programmatically turn on that hazard and then add a child to it, depending on what type of hazard I want to create. So the question is, do I want my terrain manager to handle this? Or do I want to have a separate hazard component? So in keeping with my normal, what I've been doing, deliberately incurring technical debt and planning on going and refactoring this in the future, I'm going to have the terrain manager do it. And then when I do my refactoring video, I'll jump in here and I'll split this out into its own class. So let's think about this. I want to have a I have no idea what percentage would be good. So when I spawn terrain, I'm going to add a parameter to this. I'm going to make it a default parameter. So when I'm spawning the initial terrain, this will be false, and I won't spawn any hazard. So I've got my game object here. I'm going to break this out. Oh, I passed in, never mind. Duh, Greg. Look at the code you're changing. All right, so if in terrain type equals normal terrain, because we don't want to spawn a hazard on top of a crater. Okay, so I know that I'm going to want to decrement in my update. Is there an update method? I should probably initialize this. I want to have a few seconds before I spawn the first hazard. And this, I can play around with this, but I'm going to say hazard countdown equals hazard delay. And I actually want to do this in start. Okay, so actually I also want to have the game object I'm going to be spawning this guy on. So I've got hill, boulder, turret. I don't know if it'll let me do that or not. I'll just use the integer values. reminds me I need prefabs. So I definitely in the future I'm going to split this out into its own class. This thing is getting unwieldy. So actually I'm going to make this a list. List. Game object. Hazard prefabs. Yeah, I actually like that. So I'm going to do a random from 0 to 2. That's going to give me either a hill or a boulder or a turret prefab. I'm going to spawn that. Actually, I don't just want to do this. I want to say if random.range and we'll do a percentile from 1 to 100. If that's less than or equal to hazard chance, okay, and then the game object or terrain, get component, how do I want to do that? Scrolling terrain. So I want to say hazard. I want to say hazard set parent. I'm also probably going to want to despawn that child hazard object. So down here, did I not make that a public? Public void add hazard. I saved that. Is that really all there is to it? I need to equals hazard delay. Well, we need to add these prefabs here. So we're going to want a boulder. We're going to want a hill. We're going to want a turret. And I'm probably going to want to put some other logic in there. Like maybe every time I add a crater, decrement the set the chance to be 0 and then gradually add the chance back, because I don't want to have a hazard immediately after a crater. I think it would be fine to have a hazard immediately before a crater because they can shoot it and then jump over the crater. But if it's after the crater, I guess they could still shoot it before they jump over the crater. I don't know. We'll see how it plays, and little tweaks like that are things I can do later. I'm not seeing any hazards. Turn my speakers down a little bit. Okay, so I've got some null reference exceptions. So I forgot something here. I have not assigned hazard. So I'm trying, oh, duh. I only want to despawn the hazard if, I only want to, actually I don't even need to do this because despawning it will do that. And I think that this will already check for null. Yes, so I don't even need to do a null check there. I think this will work. But it never spawned one, so that's concerning. Let me look at my terrain manager script again. So when I spawn terrain, oh, duh. Not seeing any hazards. Oh, what is that? What did I spawn there? Okay, so that's a problem. So I want to make sure I zero out that boulder's position. because the hazard is already positioned where I want it to go. So this guy needs to be zeroed out. So apparently it gave it a random position when it spawned it. And I'm going to want to play around with those percentages, because it seemed to take a long time before I had a hazard show up. Let's see. I'm pretty sure I can specify vector 3 here. So I'm going to say vector 3.0. No? To bool. Oh well. Oh, the boulder was still up in the air, I saw. Try that again and see, put a breakpoint. I'm going to increase my hazard chance too. Let me go back into Unity. Breakpoint. So I'm going to add a hazard. Exhaust. Why am I adding an exhaust? Get hazard type. Did not do what I thought it would do here. So hazard type is boulder. So hazard prefabs exhaust. What in the world? Let me go look at my... Oh, I dragged the wrong prefab in there apparently. So I don't want exhaust, I want hill. Boulder, hill, turret. Okay, let's see. Okay, so a hill. The hazard's position is 0. Okay, so I'm gonna it looks like his position is not what I would, well, I guess it's okay. So let's see if we can add that there. crashed. Let me run it without the breakpoint. I just want to see what my values are. Ooh, where'd he go? Oh, he was probably belonged to the terrain that just despawned here. So it was totally out of position. He is not zeroed out. That is bizarre. Okay, so he's not zeroed out. That guy's in the right position. But he is not. And what about the other one? All right. I'm pretty sure I remembered setting it to 0. So did it move after I parented him? I might have to zero it out here. Let's just see what happens. All right, so I have a hazard. It is at 0, 0, 0. So that all looks good. Still. Oh, it moved. Okay. All right. Nope. He was up in the air. You know what I'm going to do? No craters. What? I did the wrong thing. I want my hazard chance to be 25. I want my crater chance to be 0. How many of you were yelling at the computer? You changed the wrong parameter. So no craters. All right. And there we go. So this is a mystery to me. Maybe I need to set its local position. I need to set its local position. That looks better. Haven't seen any turrets yet. Random range is supposed to be inclusive. Okay. From 0, 1 to 2. So this is inclusive. So it should go from 0 to 2. Inclusive. Boulder, hill, turret. There's boulder. Boulder. Hill. So why am I never getting a laser? This is supposed to be inclusive. 0, 1, 2. And I don't even need this enum because all I'm doing is indexing into an array. Inclusive. Oh, max exclusive. Greg, read the documentation. There we go, and of course I'm going to have that guy shoot at me. Let's turn the craters back on. Oh, see, this is where I need to be able to shoot him. Boom! All right, so the hazards work. But I want them to die. So I'm going to create a base class here. I'm going to call it destructible. And I'm going to want to have and let's see. Probably in the future, I'm going to want to have a reference to the level controller. I'm going to think about this. But I want to tell the level, I want to score points for destroying things. So I'm probably going to want to have a reference actually to the minigame scoreboard and a regular scoreboard to just tell it I killed something so it can tally up points for us. Let's see, I want to despawn game object, this dot game object. I'm going to want to spawn the explosion prefab. Yeah, that'll work. And tell the audio manager to play a level sound. Cool. Now it just dawned on me. I think the reason I had to qualify this, well, I must need system for something. Mathmen. All right. Excuse me. All right, so I have my destructible script, which if it collides with anything, it's just going to die, which is going to despawn itself, which is just going to set active to false, and it's going to spawn an explosion and play an explosion sound and score points, which means I'm probably going to want to add a field in the future for how many points it's worth. So And let's see. Explosion. I could use that one. I kind of like that one. I don't like that one. I think I'm going to use this one. So go up to my and then for an explosion sound, I don't like any of them. Well, that's not bad. It's a little bit of a delay, though. I don't like that. I think I'm just going to use that. So go back to my boulder hill turret. Well, what was the name of that? I'm going to lock that. Go to my sounds. Mine explode. All right. Oops. I shot over top of it. Okay, let's try that again. I hit the wrong button. I don't know how to play my own game. Oops. Oh. Let me go into my project settings, physics 2D. I want hazards to collide with, well, it should already collide with player bullet. That's interesting. Let me make sure it's tagged with, well, I know it's tagged with hazard because when I hit it, when the player hits it, I die. But it's not getting a collision when the, oh, wait a minute. I didn't add a, well, the collider, is the collider on that piece? It should be. Let's go look at our prefab here. I have a polygon collider. I have a destructible script. You know, I wonder if the bullet, if the player bullet doesn't have a rigid body. If the player bullet doesn't, well, it must have a rigid body because I'm using force to propel it. Yes, it does. I've got a collider and a rigid body. It is player bullet. So this guy has destructible script. He's got a collider. see its collider. I should be getting a trigger, and he has the destructible script. Oops. Well, I think this collision is going to be from the buggy, not the bullet. Front wheel. Yep. Oh, I also want to only die once, so... Let's try this again. Yeah. Oh! Well, that one worked. What happened there? It must have thought it was already dead. What was the deal with him? He didn't get the collision the first time. I'm going to turn off the craters again. It just makes it too difficult to test. I like that. Interesting. So he must not be on the hazard layer. Well, So buggy to boulder collided with the buggy bullet. Died. Dead equals false. Dying. Very interesting. Okay, so let's look at the turret. And I should definitely, the next time it starts, dead should be set to false. So I should be able to kill it the next time it spawned. Let's see what happens. That was weird. It didn't spawn an explosion. Oh, what the heck happened there? It's just disappearing. Very strange. No more hazards? And it just disappeared again. So I have some things to debug here, but I think that's a good place to wrap up for tonight. Hopefully there was something informational or interesting about this video. I had fun drawing that art and pulling it into the game, and in the next stream we'll debug some of those issues and try and figure out why some of those hazards just keep disappearing and why sometimes the bullets just bounce off of them. And we'll also implement having the turret shoot at the buggy that give us something a little bit more of a challenge, and maybe even add the enemy ships. The other thing I need to do, which you'll notice if I go back to my title scene and run this game from the beginning, this new mini game is not accessible. Let me switch back to my monitor here. This mini game is not accessible. I've only got Flappy Egg and Ninjaroid, so I'm also going to have to wire up probably this guy to be the Egg Patrol game. So I'll be able to show you how I do that in a subsequent video. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, and if you have any comments or suggestions, drop something in the comment, and also click the like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. And if you want to be notified the next time I go live or post another video, click that notification icon. In the meantime, good luck with your game development journey, and thanks for watching.